The second essay that you're going to write this term concentrates on explaining a concept, or as you've read in the text, is expository writing. So the basic principle behind this type of writing is simply to describe or explain something. You're not going to argue. You don't give step-by-step instructions. You just simply give an objective description and explanation about something. So when you pick your topic, make sure that you're very careful that it's something that you can explain well with good, clear, specific description, but is not something that you're going to teach somebody how to do or make an argument about. So topic selection is really important for this kind of essay. Just as with your first essay of the quarter, you want to make sure that you have your MLA format in place. You want to have proper page numbers, a good title, proper spacing, margins, a heading, all like that. If you have any questions, just continue to let me know. Hopefully you're getting things figured out as we go. So just let me know if you have any questions and if I can clarify something for you. So a really big element that is important to this type of writing is not using outside sources. The point of this essay is not to draw in research and go out and find different sources to help support the information that you're trying to provide. You simply have to use your own knowledge and understanding in order to teach your reader. So pretty much if anything in your essay is not common knowledge, which is something anybody would know, anybody randomly off the street, and if you watch certain comedy shows, you'll understand that asking random people on the street questions is downright depressing in terms of what they don't know. So if it's not common knowledge, you cannot include it, because if it's not common knowledge, it requires a citation, which is again not the point of this essay. So dates, statistics, facts and figures, things like that are not common knowledge unless it's a really broad date. Like the date that World War II started, I would consider that common knowledge. But the more specific and the more detailed you get, the more you get into that red zone of having to cite where you're getting your information. So it may be perhaps you have a really, really good understanding of something specific, or of, something that you want to write about, but the details that you give are so specific that if it makes me question, did you look this up or do you actually know this? You don't want to go there. So try to keep it more general, more broad, and just common knowledge. And the main reason that I'm cautioning you against this is not a grade issue necessarily. It's a plagiarism issue. So if you go to a website, you get some information from there, you just put it in your paper without citing it, that's plagiarism. You're taking information without citing where you got it and proving to your reader that you're correct. So again, that's a plagiarism issue. Don't worry about your grade, because plagiarism is a whole different ballgame. If you plagiarize your paper, you're going to get a 0 on it and potentially kicked out of the class. So you don't want to mess with plagiarism, and that's my ultimate concern. It's not restricting you. It's not forcing you into something. It's protecting you from getting into trouble with plagiarism. So if you go outside of the common knowledge and you don't cite where you're getting this information, again, that's plagiarism, and that's what I'm trying to protect you from. So stick with common knowledge, stick with broad and general information that anybody would know, and then you'll be safe, because I don't want you to borderline plagiarism. All right, so for this assignment, again, you're going to write a 2-page essay that clearly and effectively explains a concept of your choice. I've got some ideas that you can think about here. Something that I would really lean you toward is something that you know a ton about, perhaps a type of animal that you work with or enjoy having, perhaps a sport that you play, things like that. But remember, usually the problem I have with sports is students like to go into the history of it, which is great, but that gets into the plagiarism issue again. So you have to be really careful. If you just explain how soccer works and the different positions and the different types of players, the dimensions of a field, that would be common knowledge. So as long as you stay, again, general and specific, you're fine. But if you get into who created it in what country, on what day, and what year, that is going to get into plagiarism issues. So any of these topics that you pick, pick something that you know a lot about that you don't have to do research for, and then you'll be okay. Also make sure that it's something that you care about and that you're passionate about, and that will help your enjoyment as you write it. So again, just make sure that you're not integrating outside sources and that it's something that you enjoy. Also keep in mind that it's not, you don't want to have a topic that you're going to get argumentative about. So perhaps if you know a lot about politics, you have to make sure that you don't argue one way or another about whatever you want to discuss politically. So make sure it's not an argument. Also, make sure you're not writing a how-to. So if you want to talk about perhaps cooking, say Italian cooking and the different types of Italian cooking and the different things you can make, things like that, that's perfectly fine. But don't write about how to make spaghetti. So there's a huge difference between the two. One, you're simply explaining what something is and giving different categories and information. The other one is giving a step-by-step process in how to do something. So that's called a process narrative. You're saying you do this, then you do this, then you do this. That's not what this essay is. So you don't want to argue. You don't want to teach your reader how to do something. Your reader, excuse me. You don't want to teach them how to do something. You're simply explaining. So if you have any questions about that, be sure to let me know. Or if you'd like me to look at a draft before you turn in your first draft, I'd be happy to do that too. I can always do that for you. So if you want to run a topic by me or have me look something over, please don't hesitate to ask, and then you'll know that you're safe before it starts affecting your grade and getting you in trouble with plagiarism. Your audience is somebody who is uneducated about whatever you're discussing. So make sure that you're, again, very clear and specific in what you're describing and what you're trying to explain and teach, because you don't want to confuse your reader or lose their interest in any way. So just as with your first essay, this essay is going to be written in 2 drafts, a first draft and a final draft. And make sure you know the first draft that you turn in is as good as it can be, because that way I can give you better feedback and you can get a better grade on it initially, and then you have less work to do, hopefully, for the final draft and then ultimately the portfolio at the end of the quarter. So turn in your first draft this week and then turn in your final draft next week. They're both worth 16 points. They're both going to be graded according to the same criteria, which again will be listed here, and then we'll cover this paper's grading rubric just like I did with essay number 1. But again, it's the same process as you had with essay number 1. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Make sure that your paper is 2 pages long or it won't pass. Also, make sure that you do not utilize any information that you got from an outside source. Stick only with common knowledge, or again, that could get you in trouble with plagiarism and a 0 for the entire paper. Make sure you've got the MLA elements all in place. I've got them all listed here. Make sure that you stay neutral and objective on your topic. Don't argue and don't write your essay as a how-to. Make sure you have an effective introduction and conclusion. Make sure you're always engaging your reader, which means you're using style and proper wording and sentence structure to make your reader want to read your essay. Also, make sure you have a clear thesis statement in your introduction that outlines what your paper is about. Make sure you stay focused on that thesis statement. Use transitions, develop your paragraphs, use topic sentences for each paragraph. Make sure you vary your sentence structure. Use proper organization. Only have 1 main point per body paragraph. Utilize the strategies for expository writing that you've covered in the textbook. Don't narrate or use you. Follow the standards of writing, so on and so forth. So here's the list of the nitty-gritty of what I'm looking for in this essay. And here is the expository grading rubric. Again, it is worth 16 points. You're going to be graded according to the following 4 categories: content, organization, conventions, and formatting. Just like with the narrative rubric, you need to read each level of each element that I'm grading on, and then make sure that your essay meets these standards, because this is how I'm going to grade you. Again, it's just like last time, so this should, start feeling familiar. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know, and just keep me posted on how you're doing.